please help me!
The scream cut through the night like a .50 cal round through tin. Jake Callahan was halfway through a lukewarm cup of coffee, leaning against his Tacoma in the gravel lot of the coastal diner, when the sound detonated inside his skull. He knew that voice. He'd know it in a hurricane, in a firefight, in the grave. Emily. 12 years old. Red hair. Freckles. The only thing in the world that still mattered. He dropped the coffee. The ceramic mug exploded on the ground as he sprinted. Boots pounded asphalt. The diner's neon sign blurred red, blue, red. 43 years old, titanium rod in the left femur, 2 ruptured discs, and none of it registered. Adrenaline turned the pain into rocket fuel. He rounded the corner of the building and saw them. 3 men. 1 van, no plates, back door yawning open like a monster's mouth. Emily kicking, twisting, a hand clamped over her mouth, eyes wide and white in the dark. Jake didn't speak. He didn't warn. He became the thing they'd trained him to be for 22 years. The Reaper. The first man never saw him coming. Jake hit him low, shoulder to the solar plexus, drove him into the ground so hard the air left the bastard's lungs in a ruined wheeze. Arms snaked around the throat, legs grapevined, rear naked choke locked tight. The men thrashed once, twice, then went limp. Jake held it another 5 seconds to be sure. Dropped the body like trash. The second man let go of Emily's legs to swing. Wild right hook. Jake slipped inside, caught the elbow, redirected the momentum, and buried his own elbow into the man's temple. Felt the skull dent. The men dropped straight down, out cold before he hit pavement. The third one, the one with his hand still over Emily's mouth, shoved her hard to the ground and pulled a knife. Emily landed on her palms, skin shredding on gravel, a terrified sob ripping out of her. Daddy. The blade flashed. Jake stepped between his daughter and the steel. Time dilated, the way it always did when death was close enough to smell. Cheap serrated blade. Shaking hand. Tweaker eyes. Kid couldn't be more than 21. Drop it, Jake said, voice flat, the same tone he'd used clearing rooms in Fallujah. You've got 1 second. The kid lunged. Jake caught the wrist, twisted outward. Radius and ulna snapped like green wood. The knife clattered away. Jake pivoted, drove the kid face first into the van's fender, once, twice, until the body slid down the paint leaving a wet red streak. Silence. Only Emily's broken breathing and the distant surf. Jake turned. His little girl was curled into a ball, arms wrapped around her knees, blood on her lip, 1 sneaker missing. He dropped beside her, every joint screaming, and pulled her into his chest. I've got you, baby. Daddy's got you. She buried her face in his neck and cried so hard her whole body shook. He rocked her like he did when she was 4 and the thunder scared her. Except tonight the thunder had hands and knives. Red and blue lights painted the lot. Sirens. People shouting from the diner windows. Jake didn't move. He just held her until the deputies pried them apart to check her for injuries. Bruises shaped like fingerprints on her arms. Split lip. Scrapes. But alive. He looked at the 3 unconscious men and felt nothing but cold satisfaction. They should have killed him when they had the chance. 2. The Admiral. 0600 the next morning. The knock was military, 3 sharp raps that rattled the whole doorframe. Jake hadn't slept. Emily was finally out on the couch, drugged with children's Benadryl and exhaustion, cocooned in blankets. He opened the door with a Glock in his waistband and murder in his eyes. He expected reporters. He got a 2-star Admiral. Rear Admiral, lower half, Marcus Iron McRaven stood on the sagging porch in service dress blues, combination cover tucked under one arm. Flanked by 2 Master Chiefs who looked carved from granite. Jake blinked. Sir. McRaven's gaze flicked past him to Emily's sleeping form, softened for half a heartbeat, then hardened again. Chief Callahan, he said formally. May I come in? Jake stepped aside. The Admiral waved the Master Chiefs off. They posted at the Tacoma like it was Air Force One. McRaven entered, removed his cover, and took in the small house, peeling paint, photos of a happier family, Emily's dusty soccer trophies. He stopped at a framed picture on the mantel, Jake in desert camis, tiny red-haired toddler on his shoulders in Coronado, both laughing like the world was kind. McCraven's voice dropped. She okay? She will be. Good. He turned, every inch the warrior the team still whispered about. Jake, those 3 men last night. They weren't random predators. They worked for a ring we've been hunting 18 months. Sinaloa affiliated. They traffic girls up the I-5 corridor like livestock. Last week Devgre hit a safe house in Tijuana. Killed 6, rescued 11 girls. Cartel lost inventory. Needed replacements fast. Jake's stomach turned to ice. McCraven continued. Your daughter was targeted specifically. Someone inside leaked that former SEAL Jake Callahan lived in this zip code, had a 12-year-old daughter who walked to school alone sometimes. They wanted to hurt you. Send a message to anyone thinking of cooperating with us. Jake's hand started shaking, not fear. Rage so pure it felt holy. They chose wrong, he whispered. McCraven's smile was thin and sharp. Damn right. He reached into a briefcase and dropped a thick folder stamped top secret // no phone on the coffee table. Yesterday JSOC activated a ghost program. Project Raptor. Direct Action Task Force. No oversight. Black budget. We need a team leader who doesn't officially exist anymore. Someone the cartel won't see coming until it's too late. He met Jake's eyes. We need Reaper. Jake stared at the folder like it might bite him. I've been out 8 years, sir. Legs titanium and spite. I've got a kid. Who will never be safe until El Fantasma is dead, McCraven cut in. You can wait here for the next team, Jake. Or you can come finish what you started in that parking lot. Emily stirred on the couch, murmured Daddy in her sleep. Jake looked at his daughter. Then at the Admiral. When do we leave? Hello's on the pad at North Island. Wheels up in 2 hours. McCraven paused at the door. This one's personal, Chief. No ROE. Find the ghost. Bury him. Then come home to her. He snapped a salute most men would kill to receive from a 2-star. Jake returned it without thinking. The door closed. Jake knelt beside Emily, brushed hair from her bruised face. I'll be back in a few days, baby, he whispered. Daddy's gotta go kill the rest of the monsters. She sighed and turned toward his voice, trusting even in dreams. Jake stood, walked to the gun safe, and began loading magazines. The Reaper was awake. 3 ghosts. They brought the old platoon back from the dead. McCraven's people worked fast. By nightfall 6 men who officially didn't exist were on a blacked-out MC-130 circling over the Salton Sea. Doc Morales, former 18D, now an ER trauma surgeon in Phoenix. Still had his kit and a Bible he never opened anymore. Haas Carter, breacher, 300 pounds of Mississippi mean, running a private security firm in Dallas. Preacher Ruiz, sniper, now a youth pastor in Albuquerque, but the spotter scope still lived in his truck. Zippy Nguyen, EOD tech turned commercial diver, flew in from Louisiana smelling like diesel and crawfish. Chief Wagner, retired MACVSOG legend, 68 years old, showed up with a CAR-15 older than most of the team. And Jake. 7 men. No ranks. No records. Just call signs and scars. They landed at a deserted airstrip in the desert. A waiting Black Hawk lifted them south, no flight plan filed. In the dim red light of the cabin, Jake briefed them from satellite photos and intercepted chatter. El Fantasma runs the pipeline out of a ranch 40 clicks south of Mexicali. 40 to 60 fighters. They move girls in refrigerated trucks to a port in Ensenada, then up the coast on fishing boats. Intel says tomorrow night is a transfer, 20-plus girls, ages 8 to 16. Doc's knuckles went white on his aid bag. Preacher stared at the floor. We get them all out. We get them all out, Jake said. Or we die trying. Haas racked around into his 416. Been a while since I got to kill evil for free. Chief Wagner just smiled the way great white sharks smile. They inserted at 0200, fast roped into a dry arroyo 10 clicks from the target. Tabbed in under nods, moving like smoke. 4. The ranch. The ranch smelled like death long before they saw it. First came the dogs, 6 Rottweilers on chains. Zippy took care of them with a silenced .22 and a pocket full of fentanyl-laced steak. Then the guards. Preacher dropped 2 before they knew they were dead. Haas breached the back gate with a flex-linear charge that sounded like God ripping sheet metal. They flowed through the compound like a plague. Room by room. Muzzle flashes in the dark. Suppressors coughing. They found the girls in a concrete bunker beneath the main house, 23 of them, chained to pipes, naked, eyes hollow. The youngest couldn't have been 9. Jake's heart stopped when he saw her, red hair, freckles, curled in the corner clutching a stuffed rabbit gone gray with filth. For a second he saw Emily. Doc and Zippy went to work with bolt cutters and trauma shears. Preacher stood in the doorway, rifle up, tears cutting tracks through the camo paint on his cheeks. Jake keyed his mic, package secure. 23 souls. We're +1 ghost. Upstairs, El Fantasma was trying to run. He was a small man, 5'6", thin, expensive linen shirt soaked with sweat. Gold Rolex. Eyes like a ferret. Jake caught him in the courtyard, tackled him into the fountain. Water turned pink. The cartel boss spat Spanish curses, reached for a pistol. Jake broke his wrist, then his jaw, then dragged him by the hair to the bunker stairs. He threw El Fantasma down the concrete steps in front of the girls. This is him, Jake told them in Spanish. The men who stole you. The girls stared. Some cried. Some went very, very still. El Fantasma tried to crawl away. Jake put a boot on his neck. Any of you want to say something to him before he leaves this world? A girl, maybe 15, scar across her cheek, walked forward. She picked up a piece of broken chain. She beat him with it until her arms gave out. Others followed. Jake let them. When it was done, there wasn't much left that looked human. He put 1 round through what was left of the skull to be sure. Then he keyed the mic again. Ghost is down. Send the buses. 5, homecoming. They extracted at dawn, girls loaded into unmarked vans driven by people who didn't officially exist, bound for a debrief facility in San Diego and, God willing, their families. The team flew north in silence. Back at North Island, the Admiral was waiting on the tarmac. No cameras. No ceremony. Just McCraven and the 7 ghosts. He shook each man's hand, looked them in the eye, and said only, "Thank you." When he got to Jake, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was a silver star with a tiny V device. Valor. From a war that never happened. McCraven pinned it to Jake's chest over his heart. You're still one of mine, Chief, he said quietly. Always will be. Jake couldn't speak. Just nodded. The others melted away into civilian life like they'd never left it. Jake drove home through a sunrise that felt too bright, too clean for the things he'd done. Emily was on the porch waiting, barefoot in pajamas, hair wild from sleep. The second she saw the truck she ran. Jake barely got the door open before she launched into his arms. He held her so tight he was afraid he'd break her, but she just held tighter. You came back, she whispered into his neck. Always, baby. She pulled away, looked at his face, really looked. You okay, Daddy? He thought about the bunker. The girls. The sound a human skull makes when it finally gives. He thought about the monster he'd become again, and how it didn't scare him anymore because it had kept her safe. I'm perfect, he said. And for the first time in 8 years, he meant it. Epilogue, 2 months later. The nightmares still came, but they were different now. Sometimes he woke reaching for a rifle that wasn't there. Sometimes Emily crawled into bed with him like she did when she was little, and he held her until the shaking stopped, for both of them. But most nights were quiet. One Saturday they drove to the beach at sunset. Just the 2 of them. Emily ran ahead, laughing, chasing waves that turned gold and crimson. Jake watched her from the tailgate, boots off, feet in the sand. She looked back and waved. He waved back. And for one perfect moment, the war was far away. The monsters were dead. And the only thing that mattered was the sound of his daughter's laughter carried on the wind. He touched the small silver star hidden under his shirt and whispered the words he'd never said aloud before. "Thank you for letting me come home." Then he stood up, brushed off the sand, and ran to catch her. Because some battles you fight with rifles. And some you win just by showing up. Every single day. For the rest of your life. The end.